All right, Jonathan, let's talk about tech history for the week of May 17th through the 23rd.
This week in tech.
What do we got?
May 17, the World Wide Web was created or launched.
What? Today is the birth date of the World Wide Web. Is that what they call the internets?
The internet was born.
Or is it the interweb?
For the old folks.
For the old folks. The whole, remember Tim Berners-Lee?
Oh, man.
His name's coming up again. Oh, where is it at? Tim Berners-Lee.
On Nextcube.
This was a Nextcube computer, huh? This was the one that, what's his name? Went to go start it, wasn't it? Wasn't Nextcube the Steve Jobs?
Was it?
I think it was. Steve Jobs.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
When he left Apple and then came back again.
Yeah. He's like, fine. I'll take my knowledge and I'll start my own computer. Oh, so this was the first web server in history to be set up by Tim Berners-Lee on a Nextcube at CERN. Wow, that's cool.
Pretty amazing stuff.
So this was not only the launch of, so this was the birth of the World Wide Web, right? Because this was the first web server.
Mm-hmm.
But this also introduced into the world HTML. In order to be able to host a website, you had to write it in HTML, which meant that you also needed a browser.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And if you wanted to style, you also needed CSS, cascading style sheets. I don't think JavaScript was born just yet. I think JavaScript was 1993.
So this guy figured out how to put all those together and make it
1995. JavaScript was 1995. So it wasn't until almost 4 years later that JavaScript came into existence. But this guy, so this guy was kind of like the father of HTML, CSS, the browser, the web server, and to some degree, the internet. I mean, he was a big contributor to the internet.
Wow.
It's kind of cool.
Cool.
I'm left speechless.
Yeah, pretty amazing stuff.
It is. What else do we got, Jonathan?
On May 18th, antitrust suit filed against Microsoft.
What? The United States Department of Justice?
Not guilty. Just kidding.
So this whole thing, I believe it wasn't brought on by the government, but was it brought on by the government or was it corporate? I think the corporations were the ones that pushed the government into this antitrust lawsuit. Because what happened was Netscape was trying to release their browser. And because they wanted to sell it, Microsoft was giving away Internet Explorer. And it wasn't an option to install Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer just came with Windows 98. And Internet Explorer was so embedded and so tangled up with the operating system that they said, wait a second. How do you expect other people to compete with the browser if you're integrating it with your operating system?
Wow, yeah.
So I think that's what it was. And I think that launched the whole thing. And there was a lot more to it than than the fact that it was integrated so tightly with the operating system. I believe what Microsoft wanted to do was he wanted everybody to be using Windows machines. And so if you were able to like control the future of internet browsing by integrating it into an operating system that everyone used, it's like you were going to control it. You were going to control the internet and its evolution. So the internet wouldn't be what it is today if Microsoft had their choice of leaving the browser so tightly coupled with the operating system. It would be a completely different internet today. I don't think we would have an Apple phone or an Android phone or web development the way we do it today. I don't think any of that would exist.
Crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it was good or bad.
Yeah, because like, I wonder if we'd be using different like web browsers. Like everyone would have their own kind of web browser or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
It is. What else do we got?
On May 19th, the Apple III introduced.
Man, that looks like a clunky machine.
These old computers. Wow.
Tell me about it. That looks horrible.
The old Apple logo. Wow.
That was the disk drive right there. That was your on and off power. I'll tell you what, these keyboards are the best keyboards.
Just plain.
Yeah, no, I mean the tactical feedback when you're typing on these things are superb. What's funny is that when I was teaching software development, I would have students that would purchase these keyboards that cost several $100s because of the tactical feedback that you get back. They're like, no, you got to get brown switches. And there was this big battle between the students between brown switches and red switches and blue switches. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this got to be kidding. And they're like, yeah, no, you got to have that loud. It's like, here, let me show you. So I ended up just like getting suckered into it. I actually bought this keyboard, which is a Bluetooth keyboard. And I think this was only like $40. It might have been $50. I don't know. But as I type, I got to keep talking. Otherwise, my Microsoft shuts off the sound. But there's like this particular sound that it makes. And there's like a particular bounce that the key itself has. And when you start typing, it's pretty loud, you know. But what was funny is that people like the sound and they like the feel. And so these old keyboards, that's what they had. They had that tactical feel that felt like a typewriter. And the louder you can get that sound, I guess in your ears, you're like, I'm typing fast. You know?
There's work being done here.
There's work being done. I can hear it. I can hear the work. You know? But yeah, that's kind of cool. But yeah, there's a huge debate over brown switches, blue switches, and red switches. Any preference on keyboards from you, Jonathan?
I just like my fingers to be comfortable. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I like the sounds too, like that bouncy noise that you have on yours. Like I like it. I can dig it.
Do you prefer the number pad on the side, or do you care about the number pad?
I think the number pad on the side is super helpful, especially when you're doing digits, because you could just go to the side right here and
to the 10 key.
Yeah. I feel like that's a necessity.
I'm gonna have to look for that one keyboard that feels like you're typing on butter. All right, what else do we got?
Another one on May 19th, Apple debuts retail stores.
So we're jumping from 1980 to 21 years later, 2001.
The first Apple store
Opens the first 2 locations of their new retail store. one in Virginia, one in Washington. Is that Steve Jobs?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is, huh?
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I can't recognize his face, but I can recognize his turtleneck and
Yeah.
long sleeve shirt with his jeans.
The iconic Steve Jobs wear clothing.
You know, one time I interviewed this one guy, and he was asking about the dress code, and I was like, well, you know, it's business casual, and so you know, there's no jeans. You know, you got to have either polo shirts or button shirts. You know, but your typical business attire. And he's all like, yeah, I like that Steve Jobs look. I'm thinking, Steve Jobs look? I'm like, where'd you get that? Needless to say, we didn't hire him, just to know that comment. So be careful what you say in your interviews. All right. What else do we got?
All right. Apple, another Apple one. Apple Cube stores opens in NYC.
This is an interesting picture here.
That's not the store, is it?
I don't think it's a store. I think it's just a cube. It doesn't look like a store. But I guess this coincides with their first two locations. Oh, wait. This is 2001. What year was this? Oh, 2006.
All right.
So this is actually their second store in New York. Got it. In New York. On the underground concourse of General Motors building. Yeah. Wow, look at this.
Open 24 hours. Wow. So it's underground.
I got to go to New York just for that.
Yeah. So the cube is on top and the store is underground. That's cool.
That is kind of cool. I wonder if they're elevators. Oh, I see. You see this little,
Oh, yeah, huh?
I bet you these are, oh, there's the stairs. Yeah, got it. So you go down the stairs. Maybe it's an escalator or something.
There probably is an elevator right there somewhere too.
Or at least an escalator. Because we know people are just lazy to walk. Very cool. 24 hours a day. If you're ever in New York, bored at 2 o'clock in the morning,
it'll be open.
It'll be open.
Cool. Next, on May 20th, the first solo flight across the Atlantic.
So this is interesting. Can we also bring in the next one, Jonathan?
Yeah, the first female to fly solo across the Atlantic on the same day.
So 1927 was the first one, and 1932. Okay, so 5 years later to the date.
So this guy, Charles Lindbergh, flew across the Atlantic Ocean. Wow, 33 and a half hours later.
What?
I wonder if he slept.
I would imagine. I mean, what else? You can't hit nothing. And if you do, whether you're awake or not, you're dead. Is that how long it takes to get from New York? What is the, I want to see.
From New York to France?
Miles from New York. Come on, Vic, to France. 3,600 miles. So if we do 3689, 3689
in plane hours.
3689 times 33 hours, it said?
Yeah.
33.5 hours. This is, he traveled at 110 miles per hour.
That seems possible in a plane.
Yeah, so now if you're traveling at 640 miles per hour, it only takes you 5 hours to get to France from New York.
Is that how fast planes are going right now?
640 miles? I think so, yeah. Flight time from New York to France. 7 hours. Yeah, so you're probably looking at the incline and the decline time. So yeah, so maybe an hour to reach incline, and maybe it's, you know, you got to go off some tracks and stuff. You can't do it like a direct flight. Wow. 110 miles. And so 5 years, right? Because that's 1932. This is 1927. So 5 years later,
Amelia Earnhardt.
Amelia Eckert. Where did she go? She went from Newfoundland, while her original destination was France. Weather and mechanical problems forced her to land in Ireland nearly 15 hours after she took off. Charles Lindbergh solo flight across the Atlantic takes off from Newfoundland. Where is Newfoundland? Oh, that's Canada.
Oh, wow.
So she flew from Canada and she was forced to go to Ireland. Very cool. Congratulations to you both.
I wonder how much tech was in those airplanes. Like how they like just went all the way across like hours straight on a plane by themselves.
I don't think that they were by themselves. I mean, they had radio communication.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So technically you're not by yourself, but I don't know. When was the FAA founded? (1958). So this was before FAA.
Wow.
But there wasn't a whole lot of airplanes up in the air. I mean, even if you had 1,000 or 10,000 in the world, there wasn't a whole lot there. I'm just saying there's a lot of airspace.
Yeah, there's a lot of space. You're not going to run into anything.
At the altitude, especially. I mean, birds can't fly that high. So, cool. What else do we got, Jonathan?
All right. On May 21st, IBM announces defense calculator model 701.
I wonder if this was like the 701st model. This is the first commercial scientific computer, but I guess calling it a calculator sounds better.
Okay. So it's like a computer, but they called it a calculator.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. That's a pretty big computer if it took a whole room. I wonder if it had a terminal where like a monitor and a keyboard where, I mean, every computer needs input so that it can provide an output. But I wonder how they did it back then. It'd be interesting to see all the vacuum tubes and stuff. Cool.
And next on May 21st, The Empire Strikes Back.
What?
Is that Star Wars?
1980.
Yep. The sequel.
The Empire Strikes Back. So this
Good
was
old
3 years after the original Star Wars.
good old Star Wars teaching us about space and technology.
Yeah, yeah.
All those robots. R2D2.
R2D2 is pretty cool. C3PO was pretty fascinating. Cool.
All right. On May 22nd, the right patent.
Not the wrong one. This is so interesting how all these flying milestones were made like
In the
within
same week.
a week of like days, really. The 21st. I mean, the solo flight was May 20th, the female was May 20th, and the patent was May 22nd. So this is like a couple of days.
Well, I could see it making sense. Like people were building stuff during the winter, and then once it got to spring or summer, they're like, let's fly.
Oh, that makes total sense. I never
We're
even
ready.
thought about it that way. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah, because you're locked in. You're locked indoors for months. And then finally when the weather allows you to fly. And flying, I'm sure you weren't going to do it in the middle of winter,
Mm-hmm.
especially depending on where you're at.
I
Not
guess
back then, at least.
this week of May has perfect weather for flying.
It does. It's somewhat overcast. I mean, you can see in the picture there's an overcast. So it's not too hot. Yeah. This was their first their flying machines. They weren't called airplanes yet. They were called flying machines.
It looks like a giant kite. Like I've seen kites like that, you know.
That's right. Yeah. Take Orville and Wilbur Wright's design and make a kite out of it. I could totally see that. Cool.
All right. Also on May 22nd, the birth of PacMan.
Man.
Game.
Wait.
PacMan.
Did you say Pac-Man or did you say Puck-Man?
Was it PacMan?
That was the original name.
That's funny.
Do you know how this guy came up with the character?
No.
So apparently he created the game. Or did he create the game or was he thinking about the game? He was thinking about the game. He was thinking about the character. And he was wondering, is like, what do I make this character? And so the story goes, and I don't know how true this is, but he was at a pizza parlor. He ordered a pizza. And when he took a slice out of it, he looked at the pizza. And that's where he got his character with the missing slice from the pizza. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've heard. I can see that.
I could see that too.
I could totally see that. Now, what was interesting about this game was that most games were targeted towards men. So first person shooter, some kind of tactical game, things that women aren't necessarily interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of like a gender neutral game that didn't have violence other than these ghosts eating you. But basically it wasn't blood and gore. You just dissolve like but yeah, it was very popular with both men and women. $2.5 billion it generated.
Wow.
In 10 years. Wow.
Well,
Man.
happy birthday, PacMan.
PacMan. That's pretty funny.
On May 23rd, the old world gets connected. Paris, France, and Rome connected by telephone. Wow. That's an old picture.
These were the
Paris, Roma.
phones. You know what was interesting about these phones was that even though the voice quality sucked, as electronic equipment like microphones and speakers began to improve, if you kept them the same size, essentially you would get much better quality. So like nowadays, right? Like let's just take my little Bluetooth headset, right? The speakers that are plugged into my ear are so small that in order for me to get sound out of them, I need to isolate all the sound and concentrate it to this little hole right here. And then the microphone is like so little, you know? I mean, almost half the size of my finger. But if you look at this phone, the phone itself is about the size of this microphone. And because the microphone is big, the quality ends up being a lot better. So if we were to create the same size phones, obviously the price of the phone would increase with the price of inflation, right? But if we would have created the same size phone with the same size microphone that it had back then and the same size speakers for your ears, the quality would be incredible. I mean, it would be like you're talking to a person in real time, you know, and
yeah,
like you're having them right there. But as inflation goes up, you're trying to keep costs down, and so you make things smaller and whatnot. And so yeah, but the voice quality wasn't all that great back then. But had we kept it the same size, we would have had some pretty quality phone calls at this point. We wouldn't be dropping calls the way we are right now. Cool. I think that was it, huh?
That's it for tech history this week.
Yeah, this was from the May 17th to the 23rd. Until next time.